Like I was playing in Ibiza when I was 15, and my dad would fly over with me to go to the show, you know, and like it was great. I don't even know why they would do it. And I was like, I wouldn't do it if I had kids now. I was like, you fucking serious, you know?
Ever wonder how top DJs actually built their careers?
I had to do 15 years of hard work to get any of the recognition that I wanted.
Where I saw a turning point in my career is when I became true to myself.
From marketing and mindset to networking and negotiation, I'm giving you the tools you need to build a lasting career in dance music.
Give them bits of you and your everyday life.
You have to change the way you view the word no. Like me, I'm encouraged by it.
Join me, Olivia Mancuso, and industry leaders as we reveal what it really takes to turn your passion into profit. This is Elevated Frequencies. Welcome to your weekly Elevation, your dose of real strategies for real results in dance music. I'm Olivia, and today we are talking with Rebūke, whose live shows have become something entirely different from traditional DJ sets. So if you've seen any of his recent performances, you know the visuals are insane. Custom 3D content, Cinema 4D animations, AI-generated graphics that sync perfectly with his music. It's the kind of production value you'd expect from a massive team, but it's literally just him and his VJs, sometimes making visuals on a plane on the way to a gig. Rebūke was the kid getting pulled out of class to fix teachers' computers, and that same tech curiosity eventually led to him teaching himself visual production when he couldn't find anyone who understood his vision. Today, we're exploring how those early computer skills became a competitive advantage, why he chose to learn it himself instead of outsourcing, and how it's completely expanded his career options beyond just music. I just saw you speak on a panel about AI
for sure.
in LA.
Yeah.
I know you've been making music for a really long time. Would like your 13-year-old self ever imagine this is kind of the route you would take with music?
No, not really. I mean, you know, I've always loved music, so you know, I think it was naturally just I was going to end up doing something in music, but it wasn't like a straight line to get to where I am now. It was like like this up and down like crazy, and you know, I went from doing productions for other people to making pop music to doing more DJ stuff again to like just everything, you know, and then ended up kind of full circle back to what I wanted to do in the first place. So. Yeah, it's been a crazy kind of journey so far, you know.
Pop music?
Yeah. I used to do pop music in LA, and I used to make like pop music for guys and like bands and stuff like that. And it was good though, because like, you know, I learned to work fast, because that world's like totally different to DJ world and like producer world, where like you go into the studio with somebody and they don't have half an hour to watch you tweak a kick drum. You're like, you got to go, you know. So it taught me to work fast and stuff. So all the different things, it kind of really helped me sort of, you know, I suppose grow as an artist. And also I took a lot of those sort of techniques and put into my own music as well. So
yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
There's a book that I always talk about called Smart Cuts, and it talks about taking knowledge you have from one area of your life and applying it to the other to do that other thing better, which is like what that is. Sure. Okay, so take me back to the early days. I think I read that your father was a DJ too. Did that have any influence on you, or was this just completely, you know, from your own desire?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, you know, both my parents are very, you know, they come from creative backgrounds. So like my mother, you know, she works in she makes headpieces for like the, you know, mothers of brides and stuff like that. And before that, she used to make like handmade soaps and stuff. And, you know, so she always was in a creative world. Every time I walked into the room, she was either like sewing something or just doing, you know, something creative, you know. And then my father as well, he obviously DJed, like you said, and he got into business himself, and both of them work for themselves. They never like work for companies and stuff, you know. So it was sort of, I was always, you know, encouraged to like do my own thing, and I was never pushed to like get a real job or whatever, you know. So, you know, I could kind of always do what I wanted. So I suppose that alone sort of inspired it. But, you know, I seen, you know, my dad's record collection, and, you know, he had a bunch of stuff, and one day I was like, oh, what's this thing? Oh, it's a turntable. Oh, let's see what that does, you know. And then I ended up sort of figuring that out, and then he had like a little studio in our old house, and he had this rolling drum machine, and it was like super old, but it made these crazy noises, you know. And that's what sort of got me into that world of DJing. Before that, I didn't really know too much about like the scene or whatever, but I started to kind of get more into it. I mean, my first favorite DJ was obviously Tiesto, like everybody, and that's the kind of the sort of. I remember seeing a video of him at the Gelderbloom, I think it's called, this big circular stage, and I think it was on a CD or a DVD, and I used to watch it every night when I got home from school, and that was my first entry point into music. But that was when I was like 13 or 14, and it's just kind of I'd went from there, and got to fast forward almost 15 years or whatever, and still kicking it.
Yeah. Wow. It's a pretty dream scenario to have as an artist, to have parents who encourage you to also go explore your own creativity and do your own thing. How much influence do you think that, how big of a factor is that in your success today? The fact that your parents didn't try to force you to go get a real job? No,
so much for sure. It's like I was out playing in Ibiza when I was 15, and my dad would fly over with me to go to the show, and like it was crazy. I don't even know why they would do it. And I was like, I wouldn't do it if I had kids now. I was like, you fucking serious, But so I can't thank them enough for it, because it's just crazy, and it really did. I don't know if I'd be talking to you right now if it went the other way, So it's for sure. It's such an important thing, and also it should be more like, even like with in the school, the education system, I think creativity should be pushed more into like, actually this could be a thing, which I think these days is starting to happen a little bit more, because they're starting to realize actually creativity can make money, but before it was always sort of a bit of a taboo, and it's like, oh well, he's a DJ, but you actually go and get a real job. But now artists and creatives are actually the guys that are making a lot of money these days, so it's sort of, so I suppose that made a big sort of difference to like my route and sort of the way I ended up,
Wow. Yeah. There's probably a lot of people out there who are like, wow, what's that like to have parents that would do that? It's unfathomable for many of us, but it's so incredible. Shout out to them. Yep. Yeah. The art programs, are they always the ones to get cut first? It's absolutely. And is it the same way? Like, and I know that's how it is in the States. I mean, I remember my middle school cutting back, and art was my favorite class. And when we couldn't have it, it was like, we used to have it like 3 times a week, and then it got cut to once a week. I was devastated. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like in Ireland, it's sort of, we have, music class and art class and stuff, but it's not like, it's like an extra sort of curriculum sort of thing, where it's not like really graded that much on your like overall like reports or whatever, or your overall like, we call it leaving certs. I don't know what you call it here, but it wouldn't be on your leaving cert basically, so it wouldn't go towards your points to go to college or whatever, or uni. So it's sort of one of the things where you just do it for a bit of spare time. So that may be changing. I think it has started to change now, where because the creative side is becoming more important, and they are starting to push it more in Ireland. I think it's starting to change. But back whenever I was sort of getting into it, we did have music class, but there was no real. It was like once a week or whatever, and it was fairly standard. But I used to love it, and it wasn't like we were doing DJ stuff or whatever. It was like I was playing pianos and stuff like that. But it was just super sick, man. And like even today, some of the stuff that I do in the studio, I still go back to like when I did music class, and that's how I learned how to learn chords and stuff like that. Not that I know very much about chords, but just enough to get me by. So it was super important, and it should be really embraced. I think. Mm-hmm. What was your other favorite subject besides your music class? Not that many actually, because I used to like fall asleep in most of the classes, and like I just remember like by the time I finished school, the teachers were just like, Ruben, we know you don't like school. We know you don't want to go here anymore, but can you just like please like try and stay awake during your classes, because you're making us look bad in front of everybody else. That's the relationship I had with the teachers, But it was like a proper nerd, So I love technology. So we had computer class, and I used to go in there all the time. And I used to be, I remember it so well. I used to get called out of the class almost at least 2-3 times a week to like help the teachers figure out what's going on with the computers. And I'd be like, oh, nice, I get out of this class for an hour and I could fix some fucking guy's printer, I used to love it, And that's just all the teachers were like, I go ask Ruben, and he's not going to do anything anyway. So I'd be sitting falling asleep in geography, and then I'd go and fix a laptop or something, and that's just, so I guess technology then would be the one that I would say. Yeah, that really tracks for where you're at with your career now. Like that makes perfect sense. You said obviously your journey's not linear, but there was definitely hints in your
absolutely.
childhood that like you were going to end up where you were.
Yeah, well, like I mean, my father, like once he stopped DJing really when I was born, and he opened a computer store, and he was big into technology, and he still is today, and the computer sort of music and especially like the way I make music on the on a computer, it's very like fitting to like what I was around and my surroundings and stuff like that. So for sure, I think if I wasn't doing music today, I would probably be in some sort of computer space,
So I remember back in, I was like in 6th or 7th grade, so maybe like 2002, 3. My dad was like the first person on the block to get the new Mac computer, the Apple computer that was like on the half circle.
Yeah, the big bulky one.
Yeah, and like he was an early adopter of Apple products.
Yeah, sick.
What are you, Apple or PC?
Oh, Apple for sure. Well,
really?
Both. I mean,
okay, because you have to do both for like the stuff that you do.
When I do studio stuff, it's all Mac because everybody uses Mac, and also it's way more convenient. But like when I do visual stuff or whatever, 3D, it's all computers.
Okay.
It's just Mac for some reason. Apple just never caught up with it. It's all computers for sure. So I do both. But I find myself using Mac 90% of the day, and then when I'm going into like a visual project, I'll use Windows for that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't ever use Windows because our schools use all Apple growing up.
Yeah.
I never touched a Windows computer until I was a TV journalist, and I had to shoot all my own video and edit, and it was all Dell computers. And I was like, what is this fucking garbage? It was awful. It's like, when you just like, I felt very elite growing up using Macs, but yeah, I know they're not. Apple can't do everything.
I still call Windows fucking garbage most of the time.
Yeah, it is. And it just doesn't feel, I mean, it's probably just, the aesthetics aren't important at the end of the day, but it just feels
that's it.
Not as posh.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're here on this World of Eras tour, and it took a lot for all of this to come together. So for those who don't know, let's take a step back about what you do on the visual side. Explain that part of your career.
Yeah, I mean, the visual element sort of started to really kind of take fold like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, maybe now. I remember, I was launching my label, and I always loved placing like music with film or visual, and not necessarily like 3D animation, but just like generally speaking, I'm a big fan of films and stuff, and you could listen to a song in the car and it's going to sound good, but then you listen or you watch it in a movie theater or whatever, and there's like a emotional scene you're watching while you're listening. It just elevates both the music and the kind of the piece in front of you. So I kind of felt like when I launched the label, I wanted it to be very visual heavy, but also I wanted stuff that I could put on screens, which for most parts is 3D kind of animation stuff. So, I actually hired a guy to help me with a visual, my very first visual, and it just was a horrible situation where I didn't know how to explain to him what I wanted. He didn't know what I wanted, and it just didn't work out at all. So I was like, just again the nerd kicking back, and I'm like, this shit can't be too fucking hard. So I'm going to like figure out how to do. So I remember like I did a show in Colombia, and then I came back. And like I think it was my last gig before Christmas, and I spent the whole January just learning Cinema 4D, which for anybody that doesn't know is like back then was like the main sort of 3D animation software. And I'd spent like 4 or 5 weeks figuring it out. Started to realize really quick it's a bit harder than I thought it was going to be, but kept on at it. And then the idea at the time was I wanted to learn it just enough that I could communicate with the designers. So like rather than me being like, yeah, go do this, I'm like, well, I can actually translate and talk to them a bit better. But then I just kind of got a bit carried away with it, and then started learning more and more, and got more and more into it. And before I knew it, I'm actually doing my own visuals, and I'm putting them up on the screens. And a lot of them were god awful, and it took a long time to figure it out. It's almost like I was going back to making music for the first time, where I was back making visuals. I was making visuals for the first time, put them on the screen. For me, it was amazing. I was like, oh, look at this shit. This is like my visual up there, and then everybody else is like, yeah, but it looks like fucking garbage, And I was just so proud, And
yeah,
like,
that you did, exactly. You made it. Yeah.
And it's like when you make your first song, and then you listen to it a year later, and like, oh god, this is really bad. So it was like that with the visuals, and we just kept at it, and got better progressively, slowly. Started to actually work with other artists again, and I would get it to a point where I can't take it any further, and then they would finish it. But you know, it was good, man, and you know, it was sort of, for me, it sort of helped develop the idea of the album, and also it helped the music a little bit too, because I stopped thinking about just club records, and I'm like, well, I can make the song, and then, oh, this moment could look sick on a visual, and this could be really cool. And before I know it, I was like just making music in tandem with the visuals. So that's sort of how I started with it, and you know, it just sort of progressed from there, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. And a really important thing you said about learning how to do the thing first so you can communicate it.
Yeah.
It's so important, and I've gotten stuck in this trap before. So now I'm lucky, so I love design, I appreciate what you said about like, this is my favorite thing to do.
Yep.
But graphic design, I cannot I can't put an element on a graphic and make it work. Like, it's just fugly every time.
Yeah.
And so I have a really hard time communicating with graphic designers what I want, because my brain just can't get there. And I've tried and I've practiced, but anyway, I've found someone who's so amazing that somehow knows how to dig into my brain.
They know what you want,
And it took me forever to find her, and now I'm like, I will do anything to keep you forever, because you just get my inability. It's really just like a weird blind spot that I have that I can't. So like, talk about this on the show a lot. Like, if you're an artist and you want something, like, learn how to do it at a basic level yourself, because then you're going to, ultimately you're going to waste more money too, if you have to go back and forth in multiple rounds of edits, whatever it may be.
For sure. Absolutely. And it's just, you know, it's, even if you don't know how to do it yourself, it's just being able to like communicate with the person to be like, oh, this is what I want. And then it just, I found so quick it made such a difference, you know, and actually the artists really appreciated it as well. And I kind of got a bit of respect from the community from that, you know, the 3D community. And, you know, in the end, I was sort of like kind of one of the pioneers of that, because the 3D community is still very small, especially in like the visual world or whatever. I mean, you get the 3D community that's doing like massive films and stuff like that, but that's a different world completely. But like in the 3D community, the community that I'm in, there's more now, but there's not that many visual artists or visual artists that are doing, you know, live stuff.
Yeah, what are the other applications besides DJ shows that they're making stuff for? Yeah,
not that much. I mean, you know, back when I started, it was like most of the guys that I was working with were just throwing it up on Instagram, and they're just like showing their work, and maybe the odd time they might get like hired by some advertisement company or something, but it was very few and far between. So, you know, a lot of the visuals that we worked on, that was their first time actually having the visuals on a big screen as well, and they loved it too. So, but anyway, to go back to the point, it was like, you know, the fact that I could communicate with them and I could understand them, and I actually understood how long it took to do things as well, which is a big thing, you know, because this shit takes a while, you know, and you know, you wanted to make a rotating ball loop. You think, 5 seconds. No, actually it takes 3 hours, and then it's going to take another 4 hours to render it, and then it's going to take, you know, it's not that quick. And that was like a big frustration that they used to relay with me with other clients, and they're like, yeah, they just don't get it. So the fact that I came in and was like, yeah, I know this is going to take you a week to do. I know this is not easy, but this is what I'm thinking of doing. It just made life so much easier for both of us, which is kind of like the end goal, really. But then it sort of just became a bit of a fixation, really, where I just got into it so much. I ended up like, you know, buying a big machine that I could use to do it properly, like a Windows machine. And, you know, I bought a big laptop for on the road to make stuff. And it got to the point where it was almost too much, where I had to, like, in recent months, like, scale back again and be like, I'm still a musician, you know, I still need to make music, because all of a sudden I'm not making that much music anymore, and, you know, I'm getting more of a kick out of actually making visuals, but, like, you know, I still got to, you know, keep the career going, you know, so it was
for
a bit
sure.
of,
So your new hyperfixation,
yeah, exactly.
I get that way sometimes with I was just talking about that with, like, my Pilates studio that I loved for like 3 years, and now I fucking hate it. And I have but like it's a core part of me, but I found this new studio that's my new, I think so. It's just like the concept of having something shiny and new.
Yeah, for sure.
You really get into it because it's exciting. There's more to explore. I feel like I've kind of like dominated that one class now, and it's just like, you know, you get into the flow and it doesn't give you the same. Yeah. But like you were talking about how now you're making music in tandem with the visuals, so that's like kind of how it brought the spark back. Yeah. So with so many like creative and logistical buckets, the label, the album, the tour, the music, what life systems do you have in place that allows you to make sure you're giving enough time to each thing?
Well, I would love to say it's like well thought out and organized, but it's a fucking mess, man. You know, it's like I need to figure it out. It's just been crazy. It's like just literally all the time working on stuff, and you know, if as soon as I get home from tour, I'm back in the studio working on something else. You know, and I'm so glad I have a partner that, you know, she understands it, and she lets me do whatever I want to do, really. And you know, but it's still it's tough, you know, and it's just like, you know, I feel like I never take a break. It's like I'm just always doing something, you know. I'm most creatives are like that as well. I'm sure you're the same, but it's just like, and even when I'm trying to take a break, I'm still fucking thinking about stuff, and like I can't sleep, you know, and it's just crazy. So I need to figure it out. I've been sort of pushing it down a bit, but I need to figure it out, and it's coming to a head. So it's like, yeah, I mean, look, we've managed to do it. I feel like we've done a good job, and like it's funny when I speak to people that they're not in the inside group, because it's actually a very small group. I mean, it's me, my VJ, tour manager, and like, you know, my manager and my agent. That's it. There's not like a huge bunch of people. When we do visual shows and we record it and stuff, people think there's teams of people. It's literally me and my VJ. That's it. We just rock up to the club. He plugs in his stuff. He's really good at what he does as well. He plugs in, he does that. I do the visuals, I DJ. That's it. There's not like a group of people, so it's very like it's very in house, but also it's very hands on because of the way I've sort of designed it. So I need to figure that bit out a bit more and start letting things go. I'm kind of like, I find it very hard to let people do stuff that because I think I can do it better, which is A, stupid because it's not always the case, and B, it's going to kill me. So, you know, so it's like one of those ones where I just need to start like, you know, letting it go a bit more, you know, and, you know, I actually have started to do that recently, and I've started like hand off more stuff because I just can't do it all. And also I needed to, like, after the album came out, I had to sit down at one day and I was like, man, I need to figure out what's important to me again. And it's still the music, you know, it's like the visual stuff's great and people love it, but like the music is really what got me here and what people I think love the most. You know, I think if people had to pick between the two, they would for sure still pick the music, because that's what and that's what was sort of for a long time, for the past 2 or 3 years, it was just sort of like, well, it's not that I wasn't, you know, focusing on the music, but it wasn't like the focus, you know. But now it's starting to come back again, and I'm making more club music, and I'm spitting out a track a day or two, a track every 2 days, which is what I started when I was, you know, when I broke through. I was just knocking out tunes every day, and it's starting to get like that again, which is great, you know. So
yeah, it's all about chapters, though. Like you have to have these chapters, because it does force you to recenter and figure out what's important. And it's like, it sounds like you recognize that, like, you know, you're like, okay, like things have gotten off kilter a little bit. I need to recalibrate and see. And every creative goes through that power struggle of not wanting to give up anything, because you've proven to yourself that you can do it. And then sometimes it feels like explaining to someone else how to do it is just going to take more time.
That's exactly it. It's like,
that's the worst.
I'm like, if I have to tell you how I do it, it's just quicker for me to do it myself.
Yeah.
But then that's why we need to find really good people that just know. Like, if I always say, like, if they're not like, what's that quote? If you're not the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room, or something like that. But like, it's the people I want to work with are people that just, I'm like, oh shit, I feel like an idiot whenever I'm talking to this guy because he's so smart, or this, you know, whatever, you know. And it's just like, if I'm not working with them sort of people, then it's just like not, you know, it's not going to work, you know.
Yeah. How do you identify people that you think would be good for your team? Like, what are those key indicators that you're like, this is somebody that I feel like I can bring in?
Well, you kind of just know. I mean, like, especially in like the tech world, you just know when somebody's bullshitting or not. It's very easy to like suss them out, because, you know, within an hour or not even like a 30 minutes of talking to somebody about, I don't know, 3D or whatever, even make music, you know, you can tell straight away the people that know their shit or don't, because the people that know their shit have been doing this for years, and they know like that. It's like riding a bike, you know. And that's sort of something that I was always worried about, because I always felt like a bit of an imposter in the 3D world, because I've only really been doing this a couple of years, you know, and then I'm coming up against 3D animators that have been doing it for 15 years, and I'm like, oh, I feel like a bit of a kind of an idiot here, but that's what I needed, you know, because that's the people that I wanted to be working with, you know. So I mean, I would always view it on that, and like, I can just, I don't know, I feel like I'm pretty good at like just sussing people out pretty quickly on that sort of level. you know, and what I'm not so good at is like, you know, like the other side of it, like the business side, like the management and stuff. We made some mistakes there this year, and you know, the overall business stuff, and you know, that sort of thing. That's a lot of it is out of my control. That's where I'm not so good at judging character sometimes, and that's why, you know, I've joined a new team recently, and they're kind of all Irish guys, and you know, we're just all sort of a family sort of thing, and that's really where I thrive the best on, you know. So I'm kind of, there's been a lot of changes that way, and it's kind of worked out hopefully for the best, you know. But yeah, it's I think it's important to know your strengths and weaknesses, you know.
Yeah, totally. I've definitely learned some hard lessons this year about, I would say that I'm not a people pleaser, but I don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah.
And it's in business, it's cost me money, and it's made things more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that it also has something to do with like me being an introvert, and like there's a lot artists are introverts too,
sure.
and that's why I'm so like adamant about like young artists, obviously up and coming, like learning the business side of things so that they don't get in the situations that are so common in entertainment with management teams taking advantage or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's so important. And it's still, you think these days it's not, people can't get away with it as much, but it's still, I still hear about it every day, you know. It's like, it's ridiculous that it's still going on, you know, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, we all get kicked at some point or another. I think it's just like part of the industry. We all get, you know, it's just sort of almost like part and parcel of being in that world. But you know, it's great to have resources like what you do to sort of help young artists sort of steer away from the kind of the traps or whatever, and you know, hopefully they won't have to fall into the same pitfalls that we fell into, and you know, if they get there a little bit quicker because of that, then we've done a good job, you know.
Totally.
I see it.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's why I'm appreciative of all the artists who are so open, like yourself, and like come on here and just talk about this stuff, because it's important to hear it from the people they look up to, because you can hear it from your parents, and you don't want to, most people don't want to listen to their parents, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a brother who's an artist, and anytime I try to like sneak in like a little bit of advice, shut up, you know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, you know? So it's really important that they kind of like, we can Trojan horse that advice in from the people they look up to.
Definitely.
So on the panel, you were talking about AI. I just want to touch on that briefly, because it seems like you have a more, and I raised my hand when he asked, are you more optimistic or pessimistic? I'm more optimistic about it, seeing it as a tool. Not to have you like reiterate everything that you said on that panel, but for those who weren't there, talk to me about how it plays a role in your life and just how you feel about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like AI is just sort of come on so quick, so fast, where like this time last year, we wouldn't have even considered using it for visuals. And now we're like literally running full AI rendered visuals with no outside like Cinema 4D support or Unreal Engine or whatever. It's just getting ridiculous how good it's getting, you know, and like it's just speeding up the workflow so much. You know, about a year ago we started to use it for, you know, like storyboarding. So, you know, when we were working on the album, for instance, the general way I would do it was like, I hear the song and like maybe I take the you know, the lyrics that one of the writers might have done and take that as like a starting point of like, well, what were they feeling when they did the record? What is the song about? And then I would sit and think about, well, how about this for concept, that for concept, and you put together like a short sort of, you know, couple of photos and stuff like that. But I was always on like Pinterest trying to find the next closest photo to it, and like trying to like get it as close as I could, but I could never really get it properly because it wasn't like my ideas. It was like trying to get it close to ideas. But then Midjourney came along, and like it wasn't great, but like Midjourney, you were able to like prompt, all right, well, I want this to happen here, and I want the sky to be red, or you know, all that kind of thing. And straight away I was like, oh shit, so now I can actually generate the ideas in my head, see them, and then be like, all right, this works, put it in there. Because also there was a time where like we were trying stuff, and then we realized after like a week, this actually sucks, you know. And then I've wasted a bunch of money, I wasted a bunch of time, and you know, now we could be like, oh, all right, this is actually going to look great on a screen, you know, and it's going to be sick. But that's the kind of the most that we use it for. But then over the past couple of months, we found that the quality is getting so good, and the animation side of it is getting so good that we're able to actually run full visuals on the LED walls, and they look just as good as the stuff coming out of the 3D software, you know. Like one of the ones we've been doing recently is we take the Rebūke smiley logo and we make it 3D using Chat GPT, and that generates like a 3D image of the 3D image of the Rebūke logo, and then we give it like a flag. So, you know, if I was playing Chile or whatever, I would get it to merge the flag onto the Rebūke logo, which that alone would have taken like a day or two in Cinema 4D just to get the textures right and stuff. This does it in 5 minutes, you know.
Wow.
And then I would bring it to another software, and that would make it like just very simple. Like it would make a loop, you know, but just that alone was like a 3 or 4 day thing. And like a year ago in Unreal Engine or Cinema 4D, now we did it. The last time we did it was we were on a flight from Peru to Chile, I think it was, and I was using the Wi-Fi up in the air, and by the time I landed to the show, I was able to give Liam, my VJ, the clip to run that night and full 4K. You know, and I was like, yeah, it was crazy. And I was like, we're just like, man, well, this is a fucking great time to be here, you know. And so I'm very optimistic about it. I know a lot of people aren't, you know, and a lot of people are worried about it, and it will take people's jobs, and it will do all that, but also it's opening up so much of it's opening up this brand new world that if you can be optimistic about it and get ahead of it and figure out how to make it work for you, it's going to be very good for you, I think. You know, it's just in every industry, it's going to help people, you know. That's the way I view it. Not everybody agrees with that, but I think it's, you know, it's here to stay, and you can either embrace it or not. But I think, you know, it's kind of like, you know, whenever kind of computers became a thing first, I was just a bit too young to know about it. I grew up into computers, but I remember my father saying at the time, he was like, yeah, whenever computers came first, people were really like pessimistic about that as well. They're like, yeah, it's never going to work, and, you know, it's going to steal people's jobs and stuff. But like, look how many jobs the computer actually created for people, and the internet and stuff. And it probably did kill off some jobs as well, but it created, you know, tenfold more, you know. So that's the way I kind of view it, you know, and it's sort of, it's still this kind of gray area where, like I just seen this week, actually, a lot of, I think the main major labels are now meeting with the main like AI companies to come up with a deal, which is very progressive. I don't know how that's going to work for artists, if it's going to be good or not, but they're definitely thinking about it and they're trying some stuff. So, you know, it feels like it's starting to fall into place a bit more, and the kind of gray areas are kind of becoming a bit more solidified, you know, which is kind of what it needs, you know.
Yeah. I can't say that it's all good or all bad. There's parts that are good, there's parts that are bad, but I think it's like, how I see it is it's never been a better time to sharpen your soft skills, meaning be a likable person. Like if we're talking about the job force, whatever, like be likable, be someone who's dependable. Like technical skills were never, that was always shaky ground to stand on anyway, because technology is always changing and anybody can learn a technical skill. It's the soft skills that is going to set you apart from everyone else, right? Like, are you easy to work with? Like, are you, you know, just like a considerate person, whatever. But then also, like, music is such a human experience, and like we're always going to want to gather. Like we learned from COVID, like that was miserable watching things on our computer, you know, like watching live streams for over a year. So like music will always be about, you know, and I think artists are very, like they're very good about like not playing AI music, right? Like you're not going to put an AI track on your stick.
Well, you're gonna know it's AI anyway, right? It's like it's, well, for now, but
well, I heard this song on TikTok. It was like a sound someone was using, and it was like a funk track, like PHONK. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of good. So I follow it to Spotify, and I can't remember the name of the band or the group, whatever. But I couldn't find anything about it. And then I looked him up and I was like, this has got to be like an AI, whatever. And this is just me personally, but I was like, no, I'm taking this out of my library because I just don't want to, you know. I think people I have faith people will make conscious choices, cannot support that actively, right? They might not know, but if they do, like, to me, just as a true music lover, I was like, ugh, like, I don't want to, you know, listen to like a fake band. Yeah, it is weird. Well, especially when they try and not like tell you it's fake. Or not, when it's not if you're
AI,
using AI to help you make part of your track, it's different. It's a tool, but like a whole thing, like it's just not.
I just don't like ever think I need it, you know. And also, it's like, I can't say I've used AI on, like, knowingly used AI for any song I've worked on, and it's just not that I don't want to use it. It's just I don't really find the like need to use it because like I actually enjoy making my music, you know, and I enjoy like. I enjoy making melodies and stuff. And I feel like if an AI software was just doing it for you, it's like,
Yeah.
it takes the fun out of it, you know. And,
totally.
but like I hear people use AI mastering tools and stuff, which I'm not against it, but it's just I have my own way of doing it, and it's just and also it's like how I created my sound and how I like keep the sound, you know. That's kind of, I guess, what people like is your sound and stuff and what you do. But how can you create your own sound and identity if you're using an AI software to make it for you? Because all they're doing is taking my identity, everybody else's identities, and fucking packaging it all together. And you know, so it's sort of I don't know. It's just not really. I never really found a need for it, you know. And it's maybe I'm just being a bit kind of ignorant about it, but I just never really found a reason to use it.
No,
you know?
I mean, that's your main craft. Like for me, I'll use it to help me, you know, write things that I don't feel like writing, but I'm never going to have it do my podcast for me. Like I love having long form conversations. So like when it's your main thing, like, and that's like, you shouldn't rely on it, right? You should keep your skills sharp. Use it for the tasks that you want to outsource.
Yeah,
so
that's it for sure.
So people who have watched your trajectory, the artists that listen to this show and maybe want to follow in a similar path, like what's your closing advice to them to like build a sustainable career in this industry?
Like a brand new artist, or
but for the most part, who listens to the show, brand new all the way to like have some good local gigs. They're starting to make some noise.
I mean, all I can do is give you advice on what I did to get to where I'm at, and it was like, you know, I see it so much, even more these days, but I see so much like copycat shit going on where it's like, you know, somebody has a hot track and all of a sudden there's like a trade of people copying the music, and it's just like fucking whatever. But you know, I did that back in the day. When I was trying to figure myself out, I was like, oh well, if I make a song that sounds like, I don't know, whatever the big DJ was back then, maybe I can become him too. It never worked. Never fucking worked. And it still would never work if I tried it. And what broke me through was a record called Along Came Polly that, at the time, you know, apparently it was like so different to the rest that's what got me out of that like rat race of, you know, everybody else fighting for the same thing. So my best advice is to be original, which, you know, everybody says that, but it actually is, you know, it's for a reason, is because the original stuff ends up cutting through the noise way more. It's a bit riskier because it's like, you know, not everybody wants to buy into it straight away. Like for this, I don't know, some people know about the story of Along Came Polly, but, you know, that record sat on my hard drive for almost a year, and I'd sent it to a bunch of DJs at the time, and they all passed on it, didn't like it. And then Jamie Jones randomly came across it through a bunch of promos that I had sent him, and he played it. And the same fucking guys that passed on it back a year later they all wanted to play it as soon as he started to play it. And that's whenever I was like, so this is how the music industry works.
Jamie Jones is basically the one. He's the breaker of chains. Like literally, exactly, right. You know? Everyone on this show is 6 degrees of separation from him because he does such a good job of that.
Sure. Yeah.
And when he gives it the track his blessing, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and then like, you know, like literally my career went from that to this, just like that, you know, like craziness, and it was just more. I think because it was just, you know, at the time something different that got people talking and really set this new trend of sound at the time, and it just did so much for me. Where it's like I could have put out 50 remixes of the hottest TikTok records, and I wouldn't have done anything near as much as that did for me. But, you know, I know we're in a different time, but also it's not that different now, really. You know, it's still the same thing. If there's a massive record that's fresh and original and gets people talking about it, that's really the best thing you can do, you know. So that's my main advice, is sort of, you know, be original with what you do. Try and keep away from I call it a quick way to a shallow success. You know, a lot of that is like, oh, I'm just going to make a song that sounds like John Summit or whatever it is, you know, because then I could maybe be like him, but that never works, you know. And if it does work, it's very shallow and it's very quick and doesn't last for very long. And by the end of the month, they're on to the next one, you know. So that's my advice, really, I suppose.
That's perfect advice. Perfect advice to end on. This has been awesome. Thank you for making the time to do this.
Of course, thank you.
Rebūke's story shows how skills you already have outside of music can become your biggest differentiator. That childhood curiosity about how things work turned into a competitive advantage that most artists don't have. If you have talents outside of music, don't dismiss them. They might be exactly what sets you apart in a crowded industry. That's your weekly elevation. Remember, success in dance music isn't about luck, it's about strategy. I will talk to you next week.